Good evening. Happy Saturday, entrepreneurs. Joe DiChiara coming to you live from downtown Flushing, New York with another amazing episode of Joe DiChiara Presents How to Win at Business. And if you're watching, please give me a hashtag live. If you're watching live, if you have any questions, comments, please put them in the chat box. It improves my ratings. Not that you would care about that, but I do. And tonight, people, I'm going to do the second installment, and I don't know how many installments is going to be on this the Big Bang business theory, which is where I'm actually, investigating what happens when an entity is created. What happens when a business starts? And why is it so complicated, so confusing for people to make a decision on choosing an entity? Because when I look at the facts, folks, and that's what I do, I'm an accountant, I'll admit it. I am a CPA, serial entrepreneur, and I look at facts. And when I looked at the facts about business startups and where they are now, where we are with the number of businesses, how they're classified, when I look at that, it just does not make logical sense to me. And when something's out of balance, I'm an accountant, I have OCD. So if my books aren't balancing, I got to figure out why and where is the mistake? What is the answer? And these are some of the things that keep me up at night, folks. and I'm going to share some things with you. So tonight we are going to go through what is a sole proprietor? And I realize I may have actually, used poor English here, because I don't know if it should have been who is a sole proprietor, or maybe it should be what is a sole proprietorship? And I am, like I said in my introduction, what I wrote about when I was talking about what I was going to talk about tonight, I mentioned one of my favorite people in the world, Mrs. A. Okay, Barbara Allison. And Barbara Allison is one of those people that if you look at her and you find out what she's doing, you're like, oh, she's such a sweet lady. This woman is pure genius. So Mrs. A, the kindergarten teacher from heaven, if you're watching, thank you so much for teaching me that, words are important. And maybe, and I'm going through this journey with you. And like I said, if you're in here and you want to participate, I would like some feedback, because this is really a journey in discovery. I've made up my mind. My story is I'm sticking to it. Okay. But I'm willing to keep an open mind and go through this process scientifically. And this might take years to solve this riddle of what entity you should use in your business. This is a mystery that has stumped experts since the beginning of time. Before we even had accounting and tax laws, people had no idea what kind of entity they were supposed to create. So this isn't a new problem that we have to solve. This has been going on for millions and millions of years, people. So I hope that with your help and some of the experts that I plan on interviewing and bringing on this broadcast, that we could finally solve the mystery of choosing your own entity. And with that, I want to share with you some of my research, and I'm going to share with you. So I'm getting actually pretty good at this with the share screen. Let's see how good I am now. You know, I should have some music playing. No. Okay, so maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was at this, folks, but I'm a work in progress, and here it is. Okay, yes, I see it. And I want to take you to the, where is it now? Don't tell me I don't have it. Okay. Yes, here it is. Okay, another victory. So what I'm gonna show you here, folks, is the information that I sort of like stumbled on that was right in front of me from the time I started, you know, following the SBA. And if you don't know what the SBA is, it's a Small Business Administration. They are like the marketing arm for the federal government. Because what I'm going to show you here might shock you as much as it shocked me at the time. Because so I knew enough about marketing 25 years ago when I opened my office that, you know, I needed information. And if I wanted to work with small businesses, I needed information on them. How many are there? Where are they? How do I get in touch with them? So I went to where probably everybody goes, okay, or most people. You go to the Small Business Administration, right? So you know, and this question here, what is a small business? That was my question. So so I'm going to read this here. The blah blah blah. A small business, blah blah blah, having fewer than 500 employees is considered a small business pretty much by the Small Business Administration. Now, to me, as a CPA with, you know, over 10 years of experience at the time, you know, we didn't handle too many companies that had hundreds of employees. And I worked at some pretty large firms. You know, I'm not talking about big 8 or big 4, whatever it is now, Arthur Anderson and Pete Marwick, and you know, they had the big businesses. But to me, if we had a client with, let's say, 100 employees, that was a big client. You know, they were paying the firm 30, 50, you know, 100 grand a year. That company was probably doing 10, 15, 20 million a year. That wasn't a small business. My ice cream truck was a small business. So this, you know, so I had this information over 20 years ago, and I didn't read the fine print. So now this one is from 2014, and I pulled this one out purposely because I want to show you what I've seen, you know, compare this information with what is out there now. So in 2011, they said there was over 28 million small businesses, and not even 18,000 of them had over 500 employees. So you're talking, you know, almost 10 years ago, there's 28 million businesses. So we got 17,700 on they have 500 or more, which means that almost all of the 28.2 million they're saying are small businesses. Because those 17,700 businesses with 500 employees, they don't go out of business. They might get merged, or even if they file bankruptcy, there's assets. Those companies have been around forever. You don't start a business and 5 years later, you have 1,000 employees. It just doesn't happen. So if you look at those numbers right away, I'm saying to myself, well, what they're saying basically is everybody is a small business. How is that even possible? How is that even possible? So I just, brushed that aside for a long time. And then if you want to look at, and I'll, if you want to PM me, I will send you this info. But some of the other things that didn't add up when they say how many businesses open and close. So according to the SBA, and I cover this a lot, they're saying 10 to 12% of the firms, with employees. So now there's another category. Now we're not just talking about small businesses. Now we're talking about with employees. Let me point something out here. Most of those 28.2 million businesses had no employees, most of them. So they're answering the question based on what happens to a small percentage of them. It's irrelevant if you're looking for information like I was looking for. Okay. And then they go on, and it's all smoke and mirrors, folks. That's the point here. Because at the end, so let's look at what is the survival rate for new businesses, okay? Now, if you do the math again, it just doesn't add up, because what they say is, and where is it? I know I just had it. What creates more jobs, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so what they say, and I'm not on it now, what they say is that in 50% of new businesses will fail in the first 5 years. And if that was the case, if you think about the numbers, you've got 3 million businesses starting every year. 3 million. That means in 5 years, we should have another 1.5 million businesses. Well, how come then in 2011 we had 28 million, and in 2020 we only have 30 million? Where are all those businesses that are supposed to still be in business? It just doesn't add up. Okay, so so we don't really talk about sole proprietorship yet, right? It's not even mentioned here. They're talking about small businesses, because this is the Small Business Administration. The Small Business Administration that is supposed to be working for small businesses. I don't know about you, if you own a business. When was the last time the SBA actually did something for you? Okay, there's not many people that can go out there and get an SBA loan. And if you can, you've already run through the entrepreneurial gauntlet. You've already, proven that you're in business. Because they ain't giving money to a startup. They ain't giving money to somebody just starting out with no business experience, no track record. It's just not happening. Okay. Sole proprietorship, Merriam-Webster, a business owned and controlled by one person who's solely liable for its obligations. Pretty simple. A business owned and controlled by one person. Okay, no further explanation needed. Wikipedia, sole proprietorship, they go into more detail here, also known as sole trader, individual entrepreneurship, or proprietor. You know, you have to remember that sole proprietors didn't just appear in the United States. Sole proprietors have been around ever since cavemen were trading rocks for whatever. Cavemen were sole proprietors. Untaxed, unregulated, the way it's supposed to be. We should be like cavemen. That's what I'm going for. Okay. So basically, if you're trading, you're a sole proprietor. You're trading time for money, unless you're an employee. Unless you're an employee. But we're not talking, we're talking about sole proprietors now, right? So let's get to the bottom of this. Where do I want to go? Okay. So let's talk about this. So now, this is what the SBA has on their website about a sole proprietorship. It's the simplest and most common structure chosen to start a business. It's an unincorporated business. Forming a sole proprietorship, it's so simple. You don't have to take any formal action. Well, no kidding. It's so simple that even if you don't know it, you might be a sole proprietor. That's how simple it is. It can't get any simpler. Okay? But like all businesses, you need to obtain the necessary licenses and permits, regulations, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So now they're saying, okay, you're in business. Oh, by the way, you might have to do stuff. You might have to go to even if you're a sole proprietor, which we're saying is the simplest way to do business. Okay. And then they go on to they talk about the sole proprietor taxes. They give you the advantages, easy and inexpensive to form. It's free, people. It's free, and you don't get a choice. How does that make it an advantage if you don't have a choice? Okay, unless you know what I know, which is that being a sole proprietor is the worst possible way for you to do business. But I'm not saying that everybody should be an S corp. I'm not saying that. Easy tax preparation. Okay, let's go. So let's just take a note of that. You have complete control. These are the advantages. Okay, so let's say, my nephew just signed up to do Uber, and he got an Uber gig because he went back to college. And lo and behold, I said, Tommy, you don't realize this, but I got bad news for you. You're a sole proprietor. Oh my God, Uncle Joey, are you serious? Don't tell me that. How can I be a sole proprietor? I don't want to be a sole proprietor. Well, Tommy, they're not taking taxes out. You're not an employee. Oh, can I write off expenses? Well, yeah. Okay, so this is what happens. I call them the accidental entrepreneurs, the people that didn't want to go into business, but because of the way the economy is and how the IRS views people, all of a sudden, and I'm going to come back to this, But all of a sudden, you're a sole proprietor, and guess what? Your taxes are simple, right? It says it right here, easy tax preparation. Well, let's see what the IRS says. So the SBA is saying it's easy. Okay, well, you got to file, obviously, you got to file this. Oh, you got to pay self-employment tax. Anyone can figure that out. You might have to pay estimated tax. That no problem. What is this, 941? I thought this was going to be easy. W-2. What? You mean, so my nephew, this is what, if he didn't know me, when he goes online, if he was going online again to do his own taxes, and he was trying to figure this out, how is that simple? How is that simple? I'm not even going to go into the Schedule C, where you actually have to fill out your income and expenses, and then when you get into depreciation, but it's simple, right? Find some sole proprietors that did their own tax return and got audited by the IRS, and then come back to me and see if this is accurate, that easy tax preparation. Okay, now we come to disadvantages. Oh my God. I was shocked when I saw this, because this was not on here a few years ago. All they had were the advantages. So all of a sudden, okay, I'm a sole proprietor. Oh, it's good. It's easy tax. Who wouldn't want that? Not knowing what the rest of the options are. So, when we talk about what a sole proprietor is, what's out there, people, is that it's easy. It's simple. Now, finally, we have something that says unlimited personal liability. Unlimited. Oh, you mean there's a problem? And you could check my facts. If there's a way to go back to the SBA website, 2 or 3 years ago, this disadvantages was not here. Hard to raise money, obviously, because you're using your own personal credit. Okay? Heavy burden. Complete control. Now you're going to start losing sleep. Okay, so this is what a sole proprietor is, and let me go to one of my favorite sources of all of the confusion that's out there. My dear friends at Legalzoom, who somehow got their way into the accounting business through the back door, through a company that sends all of their work to India. Okay, so that's who Legalzoom is, people. Okay, so right away, you think that you're doing your accounting and bookkeeping with the US-based company. But it's sort of like this whole campaign on entity, on choosing an entity. Let's see what Legalzoom has to say. Is a sole proprietorship right for you? Well, let's see. There's the liability, there's the taxes. It's hard to, seems similar to what the SBA is saying now, right? Well, actually, let's see, let's be fair here. Hard to raise money. They say the taxes are easy there, and Legalzoom says, well, it's a fact. Sole proprietor has to pay their taxes. So you're open for business, what's next? Well, you might have to get a DBA, you might have to get a business license. You might want to limit your liability. So right away now, what we're looking at is I'm a sole proprietor, and now, I'm like, wait a second. I think sole proprietorship, something over here tells me that there might be some kind of problem. So what are my options? I'll go look at Legalzoom, because Legalzoom comes at the top of all the freaking search engines when you research stuff like this. So millions of people are using Legalzoom as their source of information. So let's look at this. So now we went from it's simple and inexpensive, right? From the IRS, and so we'll go back. It's simple. Now all of a sudden, we got to fill out paperwork. Okay. Well, it ain't so simple anymore, is it? What about sales tax? What about payroll? Now, this liability thing, my wife is going to kill me if she finds out. What is this? I'm going to find out about an LLC. Okay, but before that, let's see. So it seems like LegalZoom is sort of like their sales funnel is, hey, this is great. You're in business. You might need to get a DBA, correct, depending on your locality, the state and county that you're in. You might have to get a business license, and we can do that for you. But listen, you might want to talk to us about an LLC, because you're on the hook for liability. Which brings me to the conclusion, folks. How come there's not one thing up there about corporations or S-corps? So when I ask myself, when I start looking at these numbers and how the facts don't add up, and I ask myself, okay, so I know S-corps were created for sole proprietors to help them mitigate the problems of being a sole proprietor and get them on an equal playing field with corporations. Well, if you go back to the numbers I just showed you, that hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. Because the other thing that I didn't show you here with the terminology, and we'll go right back to the SBA, in the statistics, and I don't want to put up all the numbers and bore you even more than this must be, but the terminology that they use. So they didn't use, what was it? They didn't use sole proprietorship when they talked about the 28.2 million businesses. They called them non-employer firms. Non-employer firms. That was the first time I saw that. Now that, it might have been there. I just had a Stacy Danforth, the brain chemistry expert, was talking about this today, and it's like, if you think about a yellow, Volkswagen Beetle, like I want a yellow, and all of a sudden you see them everywhere. They've always been there. You just never put it in your brain. So all of a sudden I got this non-employer. What the heck is? Well, non-employer is another term for sole proprietor. So why don't they just call it a sole proprietor? Well, what that did for me, and maybe because I'm slow, maybe I'm an idiot, I never put the two together, because as a CPA in that world, all we ever dealt with were entities, either corporations, partnerships. So I had to figure out why. Why, if they created this classification, why aren't people using it? And I go back to this. This is where people are getting their information from. The SBA, the IRS. And the sales funnel is this. You see, the truth is, and this is where the whole X-Files conspiracy theory can come in. The truth is that I believe that this is all by design, people. The government does not want sole proprietors to become corporations. They just don't. And there's very good reasons why. Besides the political part of it, which by keeping people down, they get to control them. They don't want people to get rich. That's not what the government's job is. Politicians don't care if they don't want you to get rich. And if you do, they just want you to donate to their stuff. That's the truth. So they never promoted S Corps. They don't put up on for public information the benefits of being an S Corp, that every CPA and enrolled agent in America and every tax attorney knows that an operating entity should be an S Corp for a single owner entity. Hands down. And that's my story. I'm sticking with it, folks. So hopefully you got a little bit more information on exactly what a sole proprietor is and why there's so many of them. Because there shouldn't be. Not the vast majority of businesses. So just sleep on this. When you're looking at all of these government numbers, ask yourself this. If there's 28.2 million businesses in 2011, and only let's say 20,000 have more than 500, where are the medium businesses? Where are the in between? But you don't go from small to, and that's what it was in 1957 when we had big business and sole proprietors. It was the rich and the people. And that's what's going on today, my friends. So yeah, you want to go to Legalzoom and become an LLC? Well, guess what? You're still considered a sole proprietor for tax purposes. So you're back to square one. Okay, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. Thank you. God bless. Over and out. Thank you.